Hey there, Mountaineers! I'm Matterhorn Matt, and welcome to episode 3 of Historyland. Alright guys, first things first, I wanted to thank you all for 100 subscribers. I never thought I'd get this many subs this fast, and I'm glad all of you care about Disney history as much as I do. I can't wait to see what kind of adventures will be going on in the future. You all mean the world to me, and I'm glad you love my videos. Today we'll be talking about the extinct attraction, ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter in Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom in Florida. Let's get started. Now, when you think of the Magic Kingdom, you normally don't think of dark, frightening, and terrifying, but during 1995 to 2003, these words were used to describe a certain attraction in Tomorrowland. This infamous extinct attraction has developed a cult following over the years from those who've experienced it and those who've longed to experience it. That attraction was ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter. To discuss its history, we'll have to travel back to 1984 when Michael Eisner became the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Coming from being the CEO of Paramount, Eisner proved successful when it came to movies and business, which was what the Disney Company desperately needed. Like I discussed in my previous episode of Historyland on Adventure Through Inner Space, Michael Eisner thought the Disney parks lacked thrill rides and catered too much to kids and families and not enough to teens and young adults. This was the same initiative that replaced Adventure Through Inner Space with Star Tours and brought the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular to Hollywood studios. But Eisner had another attraction in mind, one that would pave the way for a whole new Tomorrowland in both original Disney parks.
Imagine a Disneyland as big as the city of San Francisco. A Disney World with a surprise around every corner. 43 square miles of tropical paradise. The spectacular Disney MGM Studios theme park. And the incredible Epcot Center. Imagine yourself here, Walt Disney World in Florida. As big as imagination gets.
Michael Eisner, paired with his new friend George Lucas, tasked Imagineers with creating a dark ride centered around the hit franchise Alien called the Nostromo. The attraction would have guests on a rescue mission to find missing crew members and, armed with laser guns, kill all the xenomorphs on the ship. But when word of the attraction reached senior Imagineers, they were horrified. Not only was the ride based on an R-rated film with violence, gore, profanity, and sexual imagery, but that the movie Alien was set in the dark, grimy future, which was the entire opposite of what Walt viewed for a hopeful and optimistic future.
A vista into a world of wondrous ideas, signifying man's achievement, a step into the future, with predictions of constructive things to come.
Eisner was eventually talked out of the ride by the senior Imagineers, but a group of up-and-coming Imagineers secretly began developing a plan to revive the Alien ride. Like I mentioned in my previous episode of Historyland on the People Mover, Tomorrowland in the late 80s was feeling less like an optimistic future, and more like how the future was perceived in the 1960s, along with Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland, which hadn't seen an update since its 1971 opening. But Imagineers had an idea that would eliminate this Tomorrowland problem once and for all. See, when Disneyland Paris opened, it didn't have a Tomorrowland. Instead, it had a Discoveryland. Discoveryland was meant to resemble the future a la Jules Verne or Leonardo da Vinci. The land was steampunk galore with copper, gold, and brass in every direction. Space Mountain dropped its white paint in favor of a copper and brass color based on Jules Verne's From the Earth to the Moon novel. And since it was based on a retro version of the future, it would never have to be updated. It would be a timeless future. So, Imagineers would be hard at work designing new timeless futures for both Tomorrowlands on each coast. Imagineers planned to not only use elements from Discoveryland to retheme Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland, but to create a carbon copy of Discoveryland in the East Coast Park. And as for Disneyland, the spaceport Tomorrowland 2055 would replace the aging land. For more information on that, check out my previous episode of Historyland on the People Mover. Now, both Tomorrowlands featured an attraction called Flight to the Moon, in which guests sat in a circular theater with screens on the top and bottom of the building. The screens provided a way to see where you've been, on the bottom, and where you're headed, on the top, while the rocket launches into space. And since flights to the moon weren't considered futuristic anymore, it was replaced with Mission to Mars. When Eisner was pitched the new idea for the alien attraction by the Young Imagineers that reused elements from Mission to Mars, he was ecstatic. 1, much like Star Wars, it could market itself. 2, the alien title gave it built-in parental controls, since surveys given to guests showed that 80% of them were aware of the film's existence and its contents. And 3, it would be cheap, since it reused old elements from the aging ride. But senior Imagineers were still horrified at the idea, and went to Eisner's new pal George Lucas to help talk some sense into Eisner. And Eisner came back with huge changes to the ride that would delay its release once again.
I thought I knew my folks till they took us to Walt Disney World. Did someone forget to tell them their parents? I mean, where's my dad? The guy who gets nervous climbing a ladder is doing stuff that's making me sweat. Mom can't even work the VCR, and now she's this techno wizard.
Walt Disney World, the one place where all the same inside. Come join us in celebrating our 25th anniversary.
For parents, they've been really cool.
Hey, Jeff, look at these sharks!
Just don't tell them I said that.
When Eisner came back to the Imagineers who pitched him the ride for the alien-themed attraction, he told them that he decided against using the R-rated alien, along with the xenomorph, and without the movie tie-in. And without the movie tie-in, they lost the built-in marketing, parental controls, and backstory of the attraction. This forced Imagineers to come up with a whole new plot to the ride, and create a whole new alien. Eisner, still confident in their abilities, closed Mission to Mars in Disneyland in 1992, with plans to open the attraction with Tomorrowland 2055. At the same time, Disney wasn't doing the best financially. With the flop of Euro Disneyland, Eisner had to cancel many new parks in the works, including a second gate to Disneyland, Westcott, which is worth its own video at a future date. And with the cancellations came the cancellation of Tomorrowland 2055 in Disneyland, which eventually got a half-hearted paint job, and the Discoveryland makeover of Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland, which got a more cost-friendly, but more importantly, timeless, futuristic spaceport theme. But Eisner was still faithful in the new attraction, which was now planned for a grand opening shortly after Magic Kingdom's New Tomorrowland. Now, the theme in New Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom was kind of genius. Themed after a fantasy science fiction city, the People Mover became the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, which acted as the city's real mass transit system, the Tomorrowland Spaceport 77, which was Space Mountain, and the Tomorrowland Metropolis Science Center, which was home to the Timekeeper. Each building fit into the continuity of the new city seamlessly. Then, in 1994, the Tomorrowland Convention Center opened, hosting the company XS Tech, which demonstrated their new transportation technology, otherwise known as ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter. Imagineers then spent the next 6 months retooling and reworking the attraction, since guests reported that the attraction was too terrifying, and Eisner reporting that the ride had too many plot holes, and that the story was too complex. They also discovered that guests were screaming longer than anticipated, which made them miss key points to the plot and lines of dialogue. But these reworkings were just a bigger nail in the coffin to the attraction, which had been in the works for nearly 7 years now.
At Disneyland, you've seen Fantasyland, Frontierland, and Tomorrowland. Now here's a whole new land you've never seen before. Hey! Everything so round, just a crazy town.
Mickey's Toontown, new at Disneyland.
Toontown! Mickey's Toontown! At Disneyland!
During the reworkings of the attraction, it was discovered that parents were continually ignoring the warnings posted outside the ride, which angered parents who happened to get on the ride with their children. So the pre-show changed to be more sinister. The host of the pre-show, Sir, which stood for Simulated Intelligence Robotics, was originally voiced by Phil Hartman, but was replaced by the more sinister Tim Curry.
See for yourself the wonders of excess teleportation. Phase 1 of the process has begun. Disintegration into the molecular components. A painless procedure, I assure you. And now the second phase. The molecules are beamed to the receiving chamber, where atom by atom we reconstruct the carefree traveler. This phase is especially delicate, but the system is carefully monitored to guarantee clear reception. It seems a slight magnetic anomaly has disturbed the transmission. Let me just check here. Accident, diversity, anomaly. Ah, not to worry. I simply boost the power to compensate. Perhaps another boost. There, the process is complete. As you can see, our happy traveler has been safely reintegrated. Now, wouldn't you agree? Excess teleportation is the only way to... Yeah. What have I done? Not that it's anything serious.
And now, witness for yourselves the wonders of excess teleportation. Phase 1 of the process has begun. Disintegration into molecular components. Don't worry, it's practically painless. Now, second phase. The molecules are beamed to the receiving chamber where atom by atom we construct our carefree traveler. And here's the little skipper now. Oh, shucks, Scruffy, you're not burned, you just with a healthy glow.
And during all of this, it was reported that Eisner had lost interest in the project after spending reportedly $10 million to revise and retool the show. The story of ExtraTERRORestrial alien encounter and excess tech went like this. The company Excess Tech had rented out the Tomorrowland Convention Center to demonstrate their new intergalactic teleportation technology. As guests entered the pre-show, a video started with an Excess greeter played by Tyra Banks and the CEO of Excess, L.C. Clench, played by Jeffrey Jones. As the video was playing, white noises pumped into the room, adding that small touch of creepiness. Then, guests entered the pre-show area, with the before-mentioned Sir demonstrating the teleportation technology on a small alien Skippy. He is to be transported across the room in a practically painless way. Sir presses a button and smoke fills his test tube, along with screams from the adorable alien. After a few seconds, Skippy reappears in the second test tube across the room, but is charred and sizzling and cries in pain. This was meant to weed out any of those who thought the ride would be too scary for them. And after the pre-show, who could blame them? Then, guests are moved into the main show area. The seating from Mission to Mars was kept the same, but new harnesses are attached on the top, which lowered down onto guests' shoulders and could give the effect of the alien standing on their shoulders when the restraints were pushed up and down. And in the center was a huge tube with a metal covering over it. As two Excess workers explain that they are going to transport one human to their planet, it is instead decided that the CEO, Clinch, would instead be transported to our planet. Now, instead of telling you how the show goes, I'm instead going to play a clip from the show from Hightower TR on YouTube. Enjoy.
Now the time has come for one of you to experience something much more remarkable. A journey through interstellar space via excess teleportation. Dr. Themis will now analyze your human physiology to determine which one of you is suitable for our demonstration.
Data link online, analyzing now. This one might be adequate. We're going to have to boost the IQ. There's a lot of genetic...
And we've got our lucky traveler to whisk across the galaxy. In just a moment, the analysis module will arrive. Please stay aside. Spinlock. Chairman Clant.
So, is everything on schedule?
Well, to tell you the truth,
We're ahead of schedule.
Excellent.
Just selected a volunteer.
It's off.
Oh, good.
I've been seized.
Something you ate, sir?
Seized with inspiration. A new idea.
Oh, terrific.
We're live, right?
Yes, very.
Hello, everyone. I've recalculated our plan. You see, if we bring one of you here, well, it's just get to meet one of you. However, if I'm teleported to Earth, I can meet all of you, shake each hand, and personally answer all your questions about the wonders of excess. I'll be with you in just a moment. Prepare yourselves for an unforgettable encounter.
Sir, I doubt that we are.
Remember, Spinlock, doubt is the rust of a feeble mind, and the only way to seize the future is to grasp the present. Let's go.
Grasp the present. Yes, well, the chairman certainly has a way with words. What do you say, Dr. Peter? Shall we grasp?
Yeah, grasp, right. But first I have to totally recalibrate.
Seize!
Okay, Doctor.
I am going as fast as I can.
Yes, sir. Dr. Peter. I do everything.
I just love the trajectory where I'm not set up to go yet.
I didn't realize. Now, Captain.
Another planet in our transmission band. It must have intercepted the signal.
What?
Wait, I got something.
We could boost the power and send it to Earth.
Well, what if it's not him?
Of course it's him. Send him to Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, live and in person, Chairman Spinlock.
Spinlock, since when does Clank have wings?
Wings? It's an alien!
Analyzing now.
Well, what is it?
Okay, let's see. Ornithius, carnivorous.
Carnivorous. It eats meat?
Exactly, genius. Those people are in a lot of danger.
Now what's happening?
The teleportation tube is starting to break.
But it's unbreakable. It's broke the tube.
We cannot let it get out.
Activate the port.
It's activating now.
People of Earth, do not worry. As long as those beams are on, the alien cannot fly out. It's out. The alien flew out. Get it back in the tube before it eats someone.
Holy shit.
I can't. We just lost power.
Get someone in there and fix it.
Hello? Hey! Hello! Is everybody all right down there?
No. Not really.
We've got major damage. What's going on in here?
Just a blackout. Find the auxiliary power switch.
No problem.
You can find it at the end of the first bridge to your left.
Roger. Already there. Excess? Did you hear that?
Never mind. Just find the switch.
Roger.
Good job. We got the signal from your night vision camera.
Now, show us the people down in the chamber.
Is something wrong?
No, we just need to make sure that they're all right.
No problem. Folks, there's nothing to be afraid of. I'll have this puppy up and running in a flash. Yeah. Where's that hatchway?
Right behind you.
Roger. I've got it. Whoa. What in the universe could have done this?
Magnus 1, come in. Can you see the problem?
I can see the problem. Oh, boy.
Listen to me, please. Don't scream. If you remain perfectly quiet, it probably won't eat you. No, I told you to be quiet.
wild.
We got power.
Good. How do we get it back to the tube?
Just leave it to me. Tube fingers activated.
This shit's off. This is really good.
It's back in the tube.
Lose the power. Hurry! Good. It works. More power!
The creature is about to explode.
Well, you see, there you have it. A little glitch here and there, but I think you get the idea. The potential of excess technology and all of that. We certainly apologize for the inconvenience, but after all.
Now, as you can see and hear from that, the ride was indeed a thrilling and terrifying experience, but the ride was doomed from the start, and the final nail in the coffin came later in 2003.
If you haven't been to Disneyland lately, you and your family have a lot to catch up on. Disneyland, where all the magic began. Come now and discover the perfect family vacation.
On October 12th, 2003, ExtraTERRORestrial alien encounter closed for good. Now, there are many reasons why the ride was closed, a couple being that the terrifying ride really had no place in the family-friendly Magic Kingdom. But the biggest blow came when Jeffrey Jones, who played Clench, was arrested for child pornography and had to be registered as a sex offender. So in 2004, the space reopened as the equally infamous attraction, Stitch's Great Escape. Now, don't get me wrong, I recently rewatched Lilo & Stitch and loved it just as much as I did when I was a kid. But personally, I believe this ride is one of the worst rides in any Disney park. It's a rushed, IP-based attraction that helped destroy the wonderful theming of Tomorrowland, with Dreamflight and the Timekeeper gone, replaced by Toy Story and Monsters Inc., which have nothing to do with the Tomorrowland's galactic spaceport theme. But that, everyone, is the history of ExtraTERRORestrial alien encounter. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I apologize for the length of it. There was just so much history I had to cram into this one video, and I tried to keep it under 20 minutes as much as I could. But if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share it with all your Disney-loving friends. Also, for those of you that aren't subscribed to my Patreon or follow me on Twitter, I wanted to let you know that my upload schedule will be Matterhorn Mondays every Monday and Historyland every Friday. And if there are any delays on the videos, I'll post about it on my Twitter and Patreon page. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to my new patron, Jahan Andrabado, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Also, comment down below which attraction you want me to cover next, and I might actually make a video on it. Click the links in the description to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and donate to my Patreon. See you next time, Mountaineers.